So this motherfucker just split his family up, turned into a mom, destroyed his friend's channel just so he could change the gender that he doesn't even act like. He don't even act like a fucking different gender. He acts like a male.
Subscribe to this channel. In case you are watching this channel and have not subscribed.
We live in a segregated culture, and I don't mean segregated racially, though the left is certainly working on that. I mean that it's segregated generationally. The younger generations have their own culture, their own language, their own art, their own music, their own universe to themselves, which exists almost entirely online. It shouldn't be like this, and it wasn't always like this, but in the internet age, this cultural bifurcation of young and old is only getting worse. And kids have their own celebrities, too. These are people who gain tens of millions of fans, even hundreds of millions of fans, young fans, and become household names for younger people. So they're household names among the children in the household, but not the adults, while remaining almost entirely anonymous to anyone over the age of, say, 30 or 25. A prime example of this is YouTube star MrBeast. And the YouTuber known as MrBeast, real name Jimmy Donaldson, has 145 million subscribers on the platform. That's just that's just for his primary channel. Donaldson also has several offshoot channels, each boasting millions of additional subscribers. On his main channel, Donaldson has 3 times as many subscribers as Taylor Swift, twice as many as Justin Bieber. In fact, he has more subscribers than every pop star, more than every internet personality, more than every media or entertainment company, aside from Sony's India division. That one hasn't beat, but other than that, he has the most. He is massively successful, wildly famous, and yet I hadn't heard of him until a few months ago.
That's crazy.
I spend much of my day online for my job, unfortunately. I also have a YouTube channel of my own, which feels suddenly quite obscure by comparison, but I've only just recently become vaguely familiar with MrBeast. And even now, I wouldn't recognize the guy if he passed me on the sidewalk. It is, to say the least, very troubling that someone can become this prominent among younger generations and have this much influence over them and yet be so obscure to the rest of us. If you're a parent and you've made the mistake of giving your child open access to the internet, you're placing an enormous amount of faith in these influencers who are influencing your kids.
Mm-hmm.
It is a faith that is almost always, or really always, misplaced. Because even the most family-friendly content, the most seemingly innocuous, as most of MrBeast's content appears to be, can subtly, or not so subtly, introduce concepts that will take your child down a very dark path. And in the case of MrBeast, that path has been opened by his sidekick and co-star on his videos named Tyson. Tyson's a frequent collaborator with MrBeast and an internet celebrity in his own right with nearly 14 million subscribers across TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And he appears in many of MrBeast's videos. It's very familiar to fans of the channel. And those fans, most of them kids again, have been watching over the last few months as Tyson has transformed himself from a married man with a child to something that is supposed to look like some sort of approximation of a woman.
Yeah, me and my girl watch MrBeast videos all the time. My son's only 3, so he's not old enough to watch the shit yet. But I don't really know how I feel about all that shit now. I'll get to it later in the video whenever he starts talking about it. But me and my girl watch MrBeast, and we watch the reaction channels, we watch the Beast Philanthropy, we watch like all of his shit. I'm a real big supporter of MrBeast. I think what he does is amazing, and it's really unfortunate with all the shit that's going on right now because he really has no option. I don't think he ever could have predicted something like this happening. But me and my girl, we've been noticing that Chris has been painting his nails, and we've been thinking like, man, that's just so weird. Like, you're a dad, like your kids, and I get it. Like, he lives in LA, and so I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, well, maybe he's just doing like that rocker shit, how they paint their nails and yada yada. But nah, that motherfucker was transitioning the whole time. I didn't even know it. I don't know, Chris don't talk like it. He don't act like it. He don't dress like it. The only thing that we've ever noticed Chris do that was feminine was paint his nails. And then out of nowhere, this motherfucker comes on saying he's been taking hormone suppressors or what, I don't know what the fuck ever, whatever it is. He's been taking shit to make him a woman for 2 months, and he looks like a fucking like I don't know, man. He don't look like a woman, but I guess his chest is growing, his hair is long, and he's dressing like one now, and it's just weird as shit. Now, I will say, if he still dresses like a man in MrBeast's videos, I don't respect it, but it is a nice thing for him to do, knowing all the shit that Jimmy does, MrBeast. because MrBeast has built this channel from the ground up, and it knows all the shit. He knows what words you can't say, what colors you can put in your thumbnails, all the analytics. He knows everything that makes it pop and what's not. He knows that if you say the word P in your video, the viewers will drop down significantly in some countries because that's just a vulgar word to some countries or religions or whatever. Like, he knows all of this shit. So he has to know that this shit is gonna backfire probably on, I would say, half of his subscribers. Well, maybe a quarter, especially on his global channels, the ones that are voice dubbed into other languages. There's no way that this shit's gonna fly with Chris being trans in those countries. I'll be shook if it does.
Fans had noticed for several weeks as Tyson underwent a sort of bizarre physical change, not only growing his hair out, but beginning to appear increasingly frail and sickly, and started wearing women's clothes and all the rest of it. Finally, last week, Tyson came out as trans and confirmed that he's been on hormone replacement therapy for the past 2 months. Explaining his decision, Tyson tweeted, quote, "Informed consent HRT saved my and many others' lives. The hurdles GNC, gender nonconforming people, have to jump through to get life-saving gender-affirming healthcare in a first world country is wild to me. Just let people make informed decisions about their own bodies."
What's wild to me is how in the fuck he thinks he's a woman. Like I said, he doesn't act like one at all. And I don't know how you could feel like one when you've never been one to know what a woman feels like. That doesn't make fucking sense to me. He don't act feminine at all. It blows my mind. That's really the only thing that blows my mind. Like, if he acted feminine before, maybe I'd understand it a little bit more. But he doesn't act feminine. He's honestly the guy of the channel. He's the one that knows about the trucks and the guns and the facts and the science and all the weird facts that usually guys know. Girls do too, but typically only guys care about that shit. And like, I don't know. It's just crazy to me because that motherfucker, that made my jaw drop more than whenever I saw Dylan Mulvaney was sponsored by Bud Light. That was a shock to me. The motherfucker is trans now. That's crazy.
In response to the concerns some people have raised about the effect his transition, quote unquote, might have on his young son, Tucker, Tyson said, quote, "I know I'm going to be a great parent, and so is every other person who puts the love of their child before everything. I made this decision because I wanted to show up as my best and happiest self for him. In a way, this was for Tucker." Now, we'll return in a moment to the grotesque and laughable claim that he's destroying his body and denying his own manhood for the sake of his son. For the sake of his son, he says he's doing it. But first, we have MrBeast's own reaction to all of this. Yesterday, he sent out a tweet blasting those who've raised concerns about having a transitioning, quote-unquote, man appear constantly in videos meant for kids.
Right.
He called it absurd and said that...
That is one thing, whenever I saw this shit, I thought it was kind of petty that people were not tuning in. And I completely overlooked the fact that a majority of his viewers are kids. I was just thinking about me and how I watch the shit and how I would know better. But kids wouldn't know and they'd be confused as shit. Like, what the hell? Like, I've known you my whole life. I've watched you since I was 3 years old. I'm 8 now, and now you're a girl. What? You've never acted like a girl before? Am I a girl? It would raise a bunch of curiosity in kids, and rightfully so. Not a good thing, but rightfully so. Like, understandably so, I should say. But it's I see this affecting MrBeast's channel like crazy, and it really sucks because MrBeast, like I said, he's worked this channel up from the ground up. Every single thing he does for this channel is to give back to people, and now he's about to lose a lot of his monetization. He's probably gonna lose a lot of his viewers, a lot of his income, because his friend, someone that he put on into this system that probably made him a millionaire by now, decided now he wants to be a different gender. It's just crazy to me. But then again, I've also heard that Carl, someone else in the videos, is asexual, which is like I don't know what that means, whether it's you aren't a gender or you don't like sex or something. But he's been that way from what I've heard. But he don't portray it. So it just depends on how Chris portrays the shit, I guess, on if it should be okay for kids to watch. And I don't think it'd be out of line for Jimmy to ask Chris to dress like a man. It's I don't know, because I was thinking about like dress code and this and that, and how there's always been dress codes, but dress codes have went the fuck out the door now. Fucking high school teachers got tattoos and blue hair. Like, there's no dress code anymore, at least from what I see.
It's called The Concerns Absurd, that is, and said that all this transphobia is starting to piss me off. Now, admittedly, MrBeast has been put in an extremely difficult situation because he built a multi-million-dollar empire with innocuous, family-friendly content targeted at kids, and now his friend and collaborator and sidekick has decided to turn these videos into a sort of visual journal of his gender transition. So MrBeast has a choice. He can either kick Tyson off of the team and then be excoriated as a transphobe,
right?
Or he can come out fully in favor of transgenderism, and he can stay, therefore, in the graces of the good graces of the media and LGBT activists.
It fucking sucks, man. I genuinely feel bad for MrBeast. Chris was so selfish on this shit. And I think a lot of the trans people don't give a fuck about what anyone else feels or thinks but themselves. And I get it. Like, you shouldn't really care. You should care about yourself first. Unless you're a dad, which he is. But you know what position you're putting your friends in. And me personally, I don't think I could do that, even if it was to make myself feel better, because I couldn't live with myself knowing I just destroyed my friend, my friend who put me on into the position that I'm at. That's just, it just seems selfish as shit to me.
Even if it means alienating a huge portion of his fan base, and especially the parents of his fan base. Well, unsurprisingly, he chose the latter. And now that he's gone down this road, there's really no coming back. You can expect much more pro-trans content from MrBeast going forward, which means that if you're a parent and you allow your child to watch MrBeast videos, now is a very good time to stop allowing that.
Yeah.
We could probably assume that MrBeast...
It's as sad as it is. I agree. I love MrBeast. I love every single thing that he does. I think he's an amazing influence. But that curiosity... A kid has no business in that business. You know, a kid needs to be a kid. If a kid wants to be a feminine kid or a masculine kid or whatever, that's whatever. But putting this in their head whenever they're at such a confusing, impressionable age, it just seems like a bad parenting move.
Would prefer not to have to deal with this, but Tyson has forced him to make a choice, and he chose. And he chose wrong. This is really the common thread.
I don't know. I don't. It depends. I don't think he chose wrong. I think he chose what he thought was right. I just don't see his international audience understanding, which is a big portion of his audience. I don't see half of America understanding, because that's how we're divided right now. People agree with it. People don't. About half and half. So he's going to lose half of his audience. It's just... Well, I don't know about lose all of it, because like I said, I'll still watch him. I just don't want my kid watching them. So maybe it won't be that big of an impact, but it'll definitely affect his channel.
Tyson is forcing this onto people who are close to him, forcing it in more ways than one. A few months ago, Tyson posted a photo of his young son in high heels with the caption, quote, "Tucker chose to slay this morning." It's only a matter of time, we can assume, before we start hearing about Tucker's own, quote-unquote, gender transition journey, a journey which Tyson will claim that Tucker chose for himself, but we can clearly see who is making the choices here. As for his wife, Katie, we can surmise how she feels about all this based on the fact that she is divorcing her husband. Tyson announced just a couple of weeks before coming out as trans or non-binary or whatever, that he and his wife had separated and were working on, quote-unquote, finalizing things.
What? So this motherfucker just split his family up, turned into a mom, destroyed his friend's channel, and who knows what other else he's fucking done, just so he could change the gender that he doesn't even act like. He don't even act like a fucking different gender. He acts like a male. And maybe that's closed-minded of me. Maybe that's old-fashioned of me. But tell me what the fuck a woman is, or tell me what a trans person is, if you don't feel like the opposite gender. Or if you don't feel like, and even in no gender, that shit still don't make fucking sense. Then it's, that shit's just so fucking confusing. It's so confusing because it doesn't make sense. You can't make sense of something that doesn't make sense, you know? If
you're keeping score at home, Chris Tyson has destroyed his marriage, abandoned his child to a broken home, created huge problems for his friend and business partner, potentially costing him millions of subscribers and therefore millions of dollars. And he has done all of this just so that he can live out his fantasies in public.
Right.
He had a beautiful wife, a child, a family, an incredible job that most people would kill for,
right,
which had made him wealthy and famous. And he pulled the pin and chucked a hand grenade into the middle of that happy and serene picture. And for what?
Right. Honestly, for
also
fucking
that he can
what?
be his, quote, happiest self, he claims.
Selfish?
And he achieves his happiest self by rejecting his actual self and all the responsibilities that his actual self is duty-bound to fulfill. Now, Tyson is, of course, just the latest in a long line of grown married men who decide to come out as trans or non-binary. This was Rachel Levine's story. This is really a story of some of the most prominent trans activists in the country. I think grown men who transition after they've already had kids and are married, this is a demographic that is vastly overrepresented among trans activists. Now, we know that, a great many of the people who identify as quote-unquote trans, you're talking a lot of this is because of rapid onset gender dysphoria and the social contagion factor. There's many adolescent girls who get caught up in this. But when it comes to the activists, it seems that a hugely disproportionate number of them are men, and especially men who quote-unquote transitioned when they were already adults. So
honestly, I don't think I've ever see any, well, maybe I just don't notice, but I don't think I ever see anyone, as much as I see like Dylan Mulvaney, Jeffrey Marsh, this other motherfucker, I don't know his name, but he's like got long hair and he just did a fucking TikTok with Dylan Mulvaney. I've only seen male to female trans that are like in the A-list spot, I've seen TikToks of female to male trans, but nowhere near as much as the male to female.
Tyson is then a valuable example because he reveals an important truth about the trans phenomenon. Despite what we are so often told, the decision to transition is not personal and private. Okay, it's not some sort of harmless personal decision. It's not like you're choosing an ice cream flavor at Baskin Robbins. Okay, that's a decision where you can rightly say to anybody who has an opinion about it, hey, this doesn't affect you, okay? What do you care? That's not this. You're doing something that will have a dramatic, life-altering, devastating effect on those who are closest to you.
And those who support you.
This is not a private journey that you walk alone. You are dragging others with you, whether they want to go or they don't. And almost always, they don't.
But they have to.
Indeed, all of Western society has been dragged into this. We are all impacted, and profoundly so, by individuals who refuse to accept reality and live as themselves. But those who are closest to the impact site will feel it the most. And many of them will end up buried under the rubble, starting first and foremost with the families. This is why a grown man like Chris Tyson, who makes this choice, really does not deserve our sympathy or our understanding. And I know saying that will probably get me in trouble yet again with many on the right who say, well, we got to be sympathetic and nice about this.
The only thing that I feel bad for is because the backlash that he's getting is insane, man. Like the bullying and the hateful comments that he's getting towards himself, his friends, his family. The amount of guilt that he has to feel for what I'm assuming, thought was right. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. But the amount of guilt that he has to feel has got to be overbearing. And I do feel bad for him for that. But then again, he chose it. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. It just doesn't make sense to me. It would make a lot, like I said, it would make a lot more sense to me if he actually was feminine or didn't act like such a man. But he does. I don't know. I don't know.
Not to these people. Because he is engaging in the ultimate act of family-wrecking narcissism. It is the deepest betrayal of his marriage vows, of his responsibility as a husband and a father.
Like he's got all the shit that's on him coming at him, and then he also has to worry now he's divorced and knows he's destroying his friend's business, and unless he is just a selfish fucking prick, there's no way that doesn't tear him up inside mentally. It just seems like a shitty position to be in as him. But then again, he chose that position. But I'm gonna end that video there, y'all. I doubt that he was gonna say any more stuff that I didn't know. But I'm gonna end that video there, y'all. If you got anything to say about the video, let me know down below. I'm all ears. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this whole shit. Please leave a like, and if you got anything to say about the video, let me know down below. And if you fuck with y'all boy, will y'all please give me a subscription? With that said, deuces.
But that's just how it's supposed to be. She thinks she leeching probably, but she won't get nothing from me. Say you love me, I doubt it. I'll fuck around and pay the fee. It's a whole lot of hate up in your eyes, and I can see it.
Hate all in your eyes, and you've been praying on my downfall.